I, 34 male, have a daughter who's now a teen. Her mom sadly passed away when she was only a baby. I met my ex-fiancée a few years later at the library. When we started becoming serious, I told her I was a single dad and raising my daughter was my priority. However, my ex was completely okay and we started dating. We were really serious about marriage and our future, especially because my ex had struck a really nice bond with my daughter. My daughter really liked her. However, one day my ex spoke to me and said she wanted to break up for her mental health and she asked me to never reach out to her again. She was abrupt and rude. After we broke up, I tried reaching out to her and her family, but no one responded. Most of all, it really hurt my daughter and she cried a lot during the first few months. 3 years in, my daughter all but gave up hope and started resenting my ex. I do accept that I had some part in the resentment because I wanted my daughter to understand what my ex did was a really cruel thing. Last month, my ex came to my door. She was tearing up a lot and gave a long explanation for why she ghosted me. Basically, the gist of it was for her mental health. She even got a couple of gifts for my daughter and said she really wanted to meet with her. However, I told her she was never going to meet my daughter ever again and that my daughter hated her. I told her she only had a few minutes to get off my porch. My ex was really remorseful and crying a lot and she asked me just to speak with my daughter and give her a chance. She also gave me a note with her new phone number. When my daughter came back home, I told her about my ex and asked if she wanted to speak to her. My daughter was really surprised and shocked, but she immediately got angry and said a lot of bad words toward my ex. I showed my daughter the gifts my ex had brought her, which included a long handwritten letter. However, my daughter recommended we throw it in the trash or burn it. I thought burning was a good therapeutic activity, so we went along with it and burned the gifts. My daughter took videos of the burned gifts, sent them to my ex's new phone number and then blocked her. I do think some of this was a bit cruel, but my daughter does seem really happy, and that's my priority. Am I the idiot for not allowing my ex to reconnect with my daughter after she ghosted us for 4 years? Not the idiot. I think your ex was full of crap and that she just met someone else, but when it fell apart she came running back to you. Your daughter should be your priority. Good on you. Don't let this evil and cruel woman around your daughter. Your ex burnt her bridges with you and will only cause more trauma for your daughter if you let her into your life again. Right? Her mental health. Give me a break. She never gave OP a chance to be there for her and I think it was an excuse. However, I would have sent X something short and sweet along the lines of, you abandoned a little girl who loved you. She abandoned you back. For her mental health. Never contact this number again. Instead of that video and then block her. Yeah, you're probably going to get some backlash from her and her family for that video, but screw them. They didn't do you any favors 4 years ago. Honestly, I feel like mental health has become a bit of a buzzword these days, and people feel it's a get-out-of-jail-free card. They can do whatever they want regardless of the damage and then say, but mental health. Our mental health is important and we need to take care of it, but when it's at the expense of others, there are going to be consequences, which your ex is finding out. My baby mama married Jim when my son was a preschooler. He had 2 older boys who were tween and young teen. They got divorced when my son was a tween. My ex and I were 100% supportive of Jim staying in Tyler's life, plus free babysitting. I told Jim that he already had his kids to raise with all the challenges and I wanted to be the one to guide him, especially when puberty hit. He said he understood. Tyler is now a tween. I have him most of the time because his mom travels for work. Jim is happy to pick Tyler up if I have to go to the office. Jim is traveling back to Idaho with his sons and asked if he could have Tyler for the weekend, last weekend, as Jim would be gone for 2 weeks. Plus, he wanted to give Tyler an early Christmas present since he would be spending Christmas with me in another state. I picked Tyler up on Sunday morning and he slept all day. I woke him up and told him to take a shower and that we would have dinner. He asked if he could sleep in my bed, so I said okay, go use my shower and we'll have dinner in bed. I could see him in my bathroom and he put on deodorant. I asked him where he got it. He said, Jim. I asked why Jim bought him deodorant and Tyler said, because he said I needed it. I understand boys need deodorant, but I didn't think my son needed it yet. I spoke to Jim today and asked if he told Ty he needed deodorant. He laughed and said yes, and it was true. Ty was on his lap watching YouTube videos and he said Ty smelled like armpits. He also said he gave Ty the puberty talk and Ty asked a lot of questions and laughed when he told him about little hairs that he had. I said, oh, so you had that talk with your boys? He said yes. I said, you should have told me that you think he needed deodorant and I would have had the talk with him. He said he was sorry and didn't think it was a big deal. I said, Ty is my only kid. I let him spend time with you not to replace me as his dad. I wouldn't have done what you did. He said I was overreacting and I said you're spending too much time with Ty. You raised your boys, so let me raise mine. You don't have any obligation to tie. I do. He asked me if I didn't trust him. I said if I didn't trust you, I wouldn't let him spend the weekend with you. So now I'm considering reducing the time spent between the two. I feel like Jim is getting too comfortable. You are the idiot. Your child has a noticeable body odor, you have primary custody, and you haven't even had preliminary discussions about puberty. You don't notice he stinks or are ignoring it. Stepdad fills in because you haven't done the necessary as a parent, and now you're hurt because you didn't say anything first. If you aren't the one talking to your kid about this, it's a you issue. Get to know your child better. Stop blaming the adult in their life that they trust and be better at becoming that adult. I'm a step-parent. We told our kids that they could choose which of us, bio mom, my husband or me, to have the talk with. The kids picked me because they thought I set a better example than two people who had an accidental kid and didn't get along. We had a series of progressive talks about puberty, intimacy, consent, protection, etc., as appropriate to their age. They know they can come to me with any questions and have done so occasionally. Sometimes someone with a bit of extra distance is the right person too. OP, you are the idiot. Was he just supposed to let your son stink until you decided he needed deodorant? It was a needed bit of hygiene. You can take your kid out shopping to smell a bunch of different deodorants if you like, and pick out the right one. You're just lashing out because you think that this made you look like an inattentive dad. My 33 male wife, 31, is currently 7 months pregnant with our daughter. The first time she was pregnant, she went into premature labour and the baby didn't make it. It was a devastating experience for both of us, especially my sweet wife. She's finally getting excited about this pregnancy, but a part of her is afraid to get her hopes up in case something goes wrong. She asks me several times a day if I think something will happen and has been having nightmares about having another loss. Luckily, her daughter says everything is going well so far, and I'm confident everything will work out okay this time. My wife and I are from the same town but live around 9 hours driving distance from our families. Right now, the plan is for my wife's mother to drive up once my wife goes into labour. She's going to support my wife during the labour and also stay for a week or so after the baby is born to help us get settled. My wife explicitly said that she doesn't want any visitors aside from her mom for the first few weeks after the baby is born. She told me she wants my family to visit a few weeks after the baby is born and even said my parents could stay in the guest room so they get more quality time with their granddaughter once we're ready for visitors. I truly just want this process to go as smoothly as possible for my wife in light of what she went through the last time around. So I'm 100% behind whatever plan makes her feel the most comfortable. Yesterday I got a call from my mom asking about the birth plan. I explained our current plan and my mom said that she and my dad would drive up once my wife went into labour. She didn't mention being in the delivery room but said they'd be in the waiting room to meet their granddaughter. She also said they'd stay at a hotel nearby to spend time with the baby once she's home. I told my mom that we're excited for her to come up and meet the baby, but we prefer if she wait a few weeks until we're settled. My mom said that my mother-in-law is coming up right after the birth, so she doesn't understand why she can't be there. I explained that my mother-in-law was there to support my wife during the labour and help her get settled after the baby was born. I added that my wife obviously feels more comfortable with her mom and doesn't feel pressure to have the house spotless and be the perfect hostess when her mom comes over. I also said that we want her and my dad to spend a lot of time with the baby and we don't know how my wife is going to be feeling immediately after the birth. My mom started rambling about how a boy's mom always gets the short end of the stick and everyone should be included when it comes to major milestones like the birth of a child. The funny thing is that my younger sister had her first baby about 6 months ago. She can't stand her mother-in-law and she still hasn't given her the green light to come and visit. My mom and my sister have both justified this by saying her mother-in-law is rude and difficult to be around. This is true, but also my sister holds grudges and doesn't get along with most relatives. I responded to my mom by asking why she was okay with my sister keeping her baby away from her mother-in-law for 6 months if everyone should be included. My mom was furious. She said that there was more to the situation than I realised and that this situation is entirely different since she's always been perfectly nice to my wife. I asked what was missing and my mom just said that my sister's mother-in-law ruined her bridal shower by bringing her obnoxious friends. I said regardless of the situation, I want to make this experience as stress-free as possible for my wife, given what happened last time. I said that she just wanted me and my mom for a while and I understand her perspective. I told my mom I love her and am excited for her to visit and will make sure she gets plenty of time with her granddaughter. She seemed disappointed, but I thought we were on the same page. A few hours ago, my wife told me she got a call from my mother. She said my mom was crying and saying she felt excluded and like we didn't want her to meet the baby. My wife is a sweetheart and a people pleaser, and she truly took this to heart. She seemed stressed and asked me if we were doing the right thing. I told my wife I wanted her to feel comfortable and that I deal with my mom moving forward. I was furious, to say the least. The stress isn't good for my wife, and she's already under a lot of it because of her fears that history will repeat itself. I called my mom back and told her that if she called my wife about the situation again, she wouldn't get to see the baby for 2 months. I said I'd add a month for every call after that. I meant this kind of as a joke, but I was being serious that she can't be putting this stress on my wife right now. My mom said we were excluding her and my father and that they raised me better than this. My dad called and said I was wrong to give my mom an ultimatum and punish her for expressing her feelings. He said that I was using this time with the baby as a form of control. I explained that I wanted them to have a good relationship with my kid, but I desperately didn't want any extra stress on my wife. My dad says I owe my mom an apology for saying I'll add months to the wait time every time she speaks to my wife about the birth plan. I disagree. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Do you know what you're doing? Exactly what you're supposed to do. You're supporting your wife and putting her first. That's called being a husband. A good husband. The reason your dad is saying you're wrong is that your mom is venting and he must hear it. And you know what that is? Not your problem. Keep on doing what you're doing. You're doing everything right. This happened with my mother-in-law. She showed up unannounced from across the country when I was on bed rest at 28 weeks with a twin pregnancy. Stressed me the heck out and made my preterm labour worse because she did nothing to help, just criticised our decisions. We asked her to visit another local family instead because my mother was coming to help and we didn't have room for both. She was so offended that she went no contact with us, and 28 years later has never met her grandchildren. Her choice, not ours. Wow, heck, LMAO. I'm so glad she took the decision off your plate and went no contact before you had to. What a spiteful witch. Your story is such a perfect way to illustrate how mothers like this aren't actually upset about the baby. They view the baby as a means of control and an opportunity to do so. This is a tale as old as time. If his mother wants to see this grandchild, she better get her crap together. My daughter, nearly adult female Emily, has been dating this boy, nearly adult male Zach, for around 2 to 2.5 months now, and he recently came to visit us. This is the first time he's come over for dinner, and this is Emily's first boyfriend. Zach is a very lovely boy and very outgoing. When he came in and saw me, he said, "Emily, I didn't know you have 2 sisters." I laughed, as even though it was a cliché, I know he was trying to be nice. The entire time at dinner, he was very polite, but he was also a very outgoing kid. He would say stuff such as, "What a lovely dinner, this food is great, your backyard is beautiful," etc., etc. So while you could say he was trying to be overly polite, he was still a very sweet and kind kid. Emily is a more shy and reserved person, so I felt they were really great for each other. Emily is also very sweet and positive, which is another thing they have in common that I appreciate. My husband also hit it off with him, and they were engaging in sports banter and eventually came to trash-talking some football team owner. However, my older daughter Amy, 19, kept grilling the poor guy, asking if he would pay for dates, to which he said yeah, and then she asked how he had money, and he said his job. Then she started talking about making time for Emily in between school friends and a job. Then it came to how they would get to dates, and she started asking him about his license. She then started to ask about protecting her, making comments on his stature. He's on the shorter side and kind of chubby, like 5'7" and maybe a little overweight, nothing crazy however. And he seemed to be getting uncomfortable, so I brought out dessert, which he again complimented, and my husband brought up sports to change topics. After he left, I asked her why she would do that. She said that he seemed too nice and cliché, as if he was faking it. I said, so people can't be nice these days. You made it weird for him and Emily. Emily didn't deserve that, and neither did he. She said she just didn't like that vibe, as no one is that nice or positive. It was definitely forced. Emily butted in and said that she really didn't appreciate that, and said that Amy's reasoning didn't make sense. Amy said that she didn't care if it was awkward, as she wanted to grill him, and that she didn't like him because he seemed fake. Emily said that Amy was messed up, and I agreed. Amy then said that he was some dumb, weak kid who was faking being nice, and this upset Emily and me. Emily then said with a fuss, "You only say that because you're single and no one will date you." She's been slightly sensitive about this, as she hasn't been in a committed relationship yet. This upset Amy, and Amy asked why I didn't say anything or stop Emily from going to her room. I said that she just insulted Emily's boyfriend and that she deserved it. Amy told me I should punish her sister and that I was a bad parent. Now Amy isn't talking to me, and I feel that maybe a personal insult like that was too far. You are the idiot. You or your husband should have stepped in sooner and told Amy to pack it in. The kid is nearly adult, she's not the parent, and it's none of her business. Instead, you let her sit there and make him and Emily uncomfortable. You didn't even intervene when she insulted his physical appearance. The irony that Amy had the nerve to get upset when Emily got personal is not lost. What kind of parent are you? Yeah, the parents are bad parents for letting this go for the entire meal. The kid will probably not want to return and no one should blame him. In high school, I started dating a girl. I walked her home and did stuff in school like that. First car date, I come to pick her up and I meet her parents. Dad was nice and said she wasn't ready yet and invited me into the kitchen. He points to a jar and says, "Do you know what those are and do you want some?" I said, "Yeah, but we usually eat them over the sink." Claps me on the back, laughs and says, "Dig in." Pickled pig feet. I think later I realised it was a test to see if I was some snooty rich kid or something. If he'd seen my car, he would never have thought that. Side note, the brine taste in my mouth led to no kissing on that date. Dad was sneaky. 100% he knew that would spoil any kissing.